missing lunch is a good reason for it.
Yeah, Hurricane Ian, we survived, but it was a little tumultuous, and trying to do something like this was not really possible without internet, all these things that we take for granted, power, everything. So it really put things into perspective of how important it is to be ready, to be resilient, to handle, because we never know. Mother Nature is unpredictable, and we at first didn't see this coming. Turned at the last minute, like hurricanes often do, and we're left with the aftermath of this. So.
Yeah, we were grateful that some friends of family who live not far from here, but they got power back within a couple days because they live near the airport. I think they were focusing on the infrastructure as quickly as they could because we actually tried to leave.
Damage.
Yeah, it was less damage there. We tried to leave and we saw the destruction with the power lines, and we thought it'd be a month without power. And fortunately, we're back live. But it was pretty devastating. And you guys have seen all the images on TV.
Yeah, so you're aware of that.
You're aware of all that. But we wanted to share today some of the lessons that we've reflected upon and how it relates to your running, your health, and your overall mental status, and how you can become more resilient, because you're going to face adversity in your life. And hopefully you don't have to go through a natural disaster like this, but there'll be some form of adversity.
So we don't want you to have to wait for that gigantic wake-up call. For that, we want you to be implementing these things in your daily life to give you the best chance, because there will always be something. There will always be challenges. That is just life. And the good thing is we can overcome any of it if we're resilient enough.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll kind of go through some things here today, and I think you guys will find this valuable just because it's something we experienced. We want to share this with you guys. So again, we're going to talk about keys to developing unshakable resiliency, and how you can pretty much overcome anything, because you can. We really can, right? You're never going to be given more than you can handle.
And I know people don't believe that, but it's actually true.
Absolutely true. And this is the universe just giving you signs, right? So this morning on my phone, that little message came up saying, I can overcome challenges, which is exactly what we're doing. We know you can do that. This community here, the whole Fort Myers area, is just amazing, the resilience they have, and have already bounced back in so many aspects. There's a long way to go, but it's really inspiring to see all that. So just recapping again, we're not going to go into anything medical today, but obviously we always share it's not medical advice. Always do your own research if we get into anything around that area. So again, lessons here. Those are some of the images I shared. I took with my phone. I was always in a safe place, but the one on the lower left there is
we're in the thick of it.
We're in the thick of it. As Patty mentioned, the storm changed as hurricanes do. Really at the last handful of hours, I think all of a sudden we realized we were going to be a direct hit. And unfortunately we were. And that's an image of the palm trees looking out the back patio here, where it was just straight out. And then there's some of the destruction right outside of our door, a massive tree. And then there's a boat that shouldn't be there, was up on shore.
Yeah, a couple of those. So.
Yeah. So to recap, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how just, you can change your diet. You'll change some of those daily pains you get into, because it's all caused from inflammation, right? And a lot of times,
most of it is,
yeah, pain is not always structural issues. Inflammation plays a significant role in that. And a lot of us turn to drugs right away. It's just how we're now conditioned. But Sadly, yeah.
But there's a lot of things that we can actually change by eating more nutritious food that helps everything, not only your pain, but also your resiliency.
Yeah, exactly. So we know this. We eat a really bad meal, because we've all done that. We just feel horrible. And so it can lead, if you do that all the time, it can lead to chronic inflammation. So some of the key takeaways directly relates to our running.
So we've talked about being resilient with your running, making yourself, you can't make yourself injury proof, but you can make yourself injury resilient. And we've been talking about that extensively. We know the key parts to that. Getting injured as a runner, and people think that is just running just does that. It's not. Running does not cause injuries. Running reveals imbalances that we have, weaknesses that we have. And when we get injured, it's predominantly, almost exclusively from training errors. Your body is extensively adaptable, can adapt to most anything, but if you do too much, too fast, too soon, all of that stuff is that's what leads to injuries. So we talked about, we've done many things on this, but the 80-20 rule, cumulative stress, the body, you have to, this would be an extraordinary amount of extra stress added on to this event. I was able to still run every day. Ian almost got me, but one of the days to run, it had to be, just after midnight on Wednesday, because there was a tiny window before the chaos. Now, it was before it hit. It was still fine. A little bit of rain, a little bit of wind. I would not have gone out there if it wasn't that case. But that is just something I do. Everything else, trying to mitigate the amount of stress that this was, putting on us is the key. But you have to do that with your running. Running is a high impact sport. You have to mitigate the stress of your weekly accumulative stress to be resilient so you don't get injured. That's being strong enough, strength training 2 to 3 times a week, working on that mobility, working on that balance along with that. A warm up, I tell everybody, dynamic warm up will help you immensely. There's no other sport where people don't warm up before they start playing or start doing something. As runners, we don't see ourselves as athletes for some reason. So we don't do anything else that other athletes do. And then we wonder why we get injured at an alarming rate.
Yeah. And we're fortunate. We've never had any major injuries, but we both used to just put the shoes on, either get out of the car and start running, maybe a little bit of stretching, but nothing dynamic, or walk out the door. And then we realized we got to stop doing this.
Yeah. I mean, it just sets yourself up. And honestly, my run streak is what forced me to do everything that I needed to do to make myself resilient, because I knew running is a high impact, running every day is a high impact. I knew I had to do the things to make myself resilient. And 2.5+ years, I've been able to run every day without being injured. So you prioritize these things, you can make these things happen. Not that I'm telling anyone to do a run streak. That's not what I'm saying. But as long as you optimize, recovery, whatever that looks like for you. So we want you to be resilient as a runner. That's a key part of it. But you also have to be resilient with your health. So
yeah, exactly. So again, as we talked about this a lot. We're going to always keep coming back to this because there's so much with all these topics, but you just have to eliminate processed foods, or as much of them as you can.
yeah.
Because it is going to directly, that is something I can promise you, is that you will feel better. And talk to any medical person, they'll tell you the same thing.
Yeah, it is alarming, the amount of chemicals that are put into our food, the amount of the industrial seed oils that are put into our food. I don't even call it food. It's not really real food. Stick to real whole foods. Ideally things with one name. Ideally things that are not in a package.
Especially a box.
I mean, it's there.
Ideally.
Do what you can with the resources you have. Do the best you can. But we know optimizing your mineral and vitamin status. A lot of things and a lot of issues that we have because comes from being deficient in key, nutrients that our body needs to survive and function and not just get by. We want to, like I said, we want to thrive.
Right.
And having this, and we know hydration's a huge part of it.
Back to the optimization of the mineral status. Next time you go to your doctor, make sure you're running tests when they do your blood work, so you can find out where you're deficient, right? That is going to be a big help for you to make sure. And if you have to take supplementation, you can do that. But again, eating better quality food will get you most of the way.
But quality proteins, that's the pasture raised eggs, the grass fed and finished beef. We've talked about it extensively. Wild caught, sustainably sourced, fish and seafood. These are all just things that the more nutrient dense food you can put into your body, the better your body's going to perform. Our bodies are amazing biochemical machines. We are asking it to do a lot of stuff. We are asking it to run, to think, to do, to lift, to all this. And that can all happen as long as everything is working right. And sadly, it'll still happen even if you're eating horrible food. But
your body will adjust. Not as well.
Not as well. You're going to be tired. You're going to feel these aches and pains. You're going to feel a lot of this stuff has to do with the food that you're eating. And sleep. We've talked about that ad nauseum because that is part of being resilient, is getting good quality sleep. I know so many people are like, that's easier said than done. It's really hard to do everything to optimize. We've gone over multiple times, what that looks like, but
yeah, it is easier said than done, but it's so critical.
But it is one of those things that do everything in your power to do everything to get.
When you come down with a cold or something, when you get a good night's sleep, it'll help your recovery, whatever that is, right? So sleep is critical to our overall health.
And we know sunshine, we are in the sunshine state. We do have optimal weather most of the year. It is a little hot, but that's okay. But being able to get out in the sunshine, in sunlight, in nature it's critical to our well-being.
Right. And again, this is why we're fortunate we're in Florida, but even when we've been in different parts of the country or in the world, obviously we just try to get outside as much as possible, especially is why we love running, right? So we can get outside, enjoy Absolutely. Nature, get sunshine, just get a different perspective, go out and clear your head. This is why we love to run so much. So getting out in nature daily is critical for that. It's going to just help with so many things. Obviously, this leads into our mental state, right? All of these are directly related. And
this is the biggest key to being resilient. The other two things are definitely, running is, for me, as you know, I've told you guys numerous times, it's what I use to get, when the pandemic first hit, trying to take care of my elderly father, not knowing what was going on. Running has always been my thing. So I just took to running and was going to run every day till the situation was done. And then, as we know, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So having that, you have to have something that can get you that stress release, to get that out of your head, to things when they're in your head, in your mind, or whatever seem gigantic. You need to get them either, whether it's through exercise, journaling, write it out on paper. Everything seems huge in your head. If you write it out on paper, you
realize real quickly after you set it and just set it aside and come back and read it. And I will guarantee you'll be shocked at what you wrote to say, wait a second, and it'll help you reframe the situation. That moment you were in when you were writing it, because we all get stressed about things and we all react differently, right? But you have to reframe the situation. That's what we've been able to do, and it's helped us immensely. Can we improve? Of course we can, but it's reminding us to reframe the situation.
And what that means is catastrophic things happen.
Like a hurricane.
There are people that are devastated. There are people that have lost their homes,
they've lost everything.
Don't know what's going to happen. And you'd say, well, how on earth are they going to, how can they do that? How can they, in the midst of it, being able to think of the positive outcome that could come out of this, you're not going to be able to. But knowing that 10% of it is the actual event that happens. 90% of it is how you react. And if you hear these stories, you hear people saying, this sucks. This is awful. This is probably the worst thing I can imagine. But I am strong. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to figure it out, because you know what? At least I'm alive.
Exactly.
So
we're still here breathing. The Lord let us get up today and is giving us another opportunity to keep going at it.
So seeing those situations, and it's okay to feel the tragedy of it. It is tragic. And whether it's losing a loved one, whether it's losing, a spouse, whatever it is, it's okay to be in that situation and feel that type of anguish and all that. But you can't let it, succumb. You can't succumb to it. You have to feel it, but know that every situation can teach you something if you let it. Know that it's going to feel awful, and it's okay to feel awful, but know that you have the strength. You will never, ever be given anything that you cannot overcome.
Right. And that's one of the reasons we have this group, guys. We want it to be a supportive, positive environment. Running, as we all know, allows us to clear our head and be in that positive mindset, which is why we're encouraging you guys to post pictures on runs if you want to, but it's going to help motivate that one person and help motivate you, hold you accountable, right? We want it to be a supportive, relationship building environment in that little snippet of your life.
But like I said, these situations, it's okay to feel that angst.
Yep.
It's not okay to be defeated by it. And all you have to do is look back in your life. Every single one of you have been through something hard. You've done things. You've overcome things. You need to sit back and realize, wait, no, I've
overcome that. Yeah.
I can do this. It is going to suck in the meantime, but I'm alive to fight another day. Sometimes that's all you have to hold on to in a situation like this. But as long as you keep moving forward inch by inch, however slow that is, if you're moving forward, you are going to be okay. You have to know that you're going to be okay. You have to realize that you are strong enough to handle anything that comes at you. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. But knowing that on the other side, you are going to be stronger, you're going to be better, and it's going to teach you something that you had no idea. It's going to put you in some situation that would have never happened before that is going to benefit you. And if you can, in the interim, it's hard, but when you can know that, and that's what people that are resilient know that, right in the moment, it's awful, but they know I have the power to do this. I have the strength to do this. And at some point, I'm going to see the other side of this. And that's why having relationships, having people, that is the key. You see people helping other people that they don't even know, but these are tight-knit communities. They're all coming together. They're all seeing what their neighbors, if they have something, they're giving it to their neighbors. I mean, that is what it brings out. And that is when you see the mass amounts of resiliency that people have, the goodness that people have, the strength that people have.
That has been really humbling and motivating to see. Humbling is probably the best word. I mean, any area, going to the gas station when the gas stations finally opened up because they got power and people had run out of gas, right? And just the grocery stores were the first thing to open. But again, it's just the situation that you see that support of everybody now, and ourselves included. We're going out of our way to try to help people where we can. Like, we're in a community here, and there's some elderly people here, and so we went out of our way to try to get them some food and resources. They still had some stuff, but you could tell they were a little bit, they were more than shaken from the storm. And because we're in the building, they're on an upper floor, there were no power, so they couldn't get down the elevator because one of them couldn't really walk down the stairs. So my point is, we stepped up in that regards, and everybody's doing that.
Ask people.
You have to ask them, right? Because a lot of times people are going to be afraid to ask for help because their pride's going to get in the way. We're guilty of this as well. But you got to know when it's okay to ask for help. And it's not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you just need help. It's
actually a sign of strength.
Yeah.
Knowing when to ask, and people want to help you. That's the thing. We think that we're going to bother somebody or this. People want to help other people. People are good. We have to believe that people are good. We have to believe that people can overcome these things, and it doesn't matter who, what, where. But focus on what matters. Focus on, we can't control other situations. We can't control other people. The biggest anxiety we have is trying to control things that we have no control over. We have control over what we do, what we say, what we think, and how we
react. Yeah.
and like I said, 90% of it is how we react to it. So these are the key things that if you can foster these, you need to have good relationships. If a relationship, I don't care if it's been for 30, 40 years. I don't care if it's a family member. If it's not supportive, it's not something that is a loving, caring, that, is something that is good for your well-being, then you don't have to, you can either get out of it. Sometimes if it's a relative, you can limit the amount of energy that you spend on that person. There's nothing to say that you have to stay in these relationships, whether it's the length of time it is. And people say that all the time, but they've been my friend for 30 years. I'm like, well, then you've had a bad friend for 30 years. It's time to have good friends.
Yeah, exactly. And we've all done this, right?
When family members too.
Family members as well,
blood,
right? Right. So when you've chosen to make that decision, right, to not let them, to reframe the situation so they're not letting, it's not impacting you because you're choosing to distance yourself or cut them out, you will feel amazing. And we both have done this, and we are grateful that we finally woke up and made those decisions. Grateful.
But this is all part of being resilient, is looking at any situation, being able to reframe it. Yes, it sucks right now. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the steps to get out of this, but I am strong enough because I've done hard things before. I've overcome hard things before. I'm not going to let this defeat me. I'm going to find on the other side of this, at some point, it's going to teach me a lesson, and it might give me an opportunity that I would never have if I didn't go through this whole process. So always hang on to your inner strength, because you are far stronger than any of you ever believed. You just are.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, we want to make sure that you guys have a great Saturday. We'll close out. And again, this has been a really interesting last week and a half for us. We know we're stronger because of it. We wanted to share some of these tips and takeaways to you guys. And, this is why we enjoy being part of this group and enjoy adding value like this to you guys. So hopefully you can take this, do your own research, and become that much better. You're going to learn something and keep moving forward, because that is a sign of resiliency.
Absolutely. And like I said, it's all within you. We're all amazing, talented human beings, and we all have something to give to other people. So don't be afraid to share it. Don't be afraid to ask for help if you're not. It's okay not to be okay. That's a sign. That's a sign of strength, is being able to say, "Hey, I'm trying, but I'm struggling." And two, this is we can't take anything for granted. We still have a boil water thing.
Yeah, right now we're still drinking a bottle of water. I have to run to the store this afternoon because our water is still not working. I mean, you can shower in it, but you have to boil the water.
These are things that, and sadly, there's millions of people across the world that don't have access to clean water.
Yeah. So
the things that we take for granted, having power, having electricity, having water, having internet, being connected to people, and this was just a short amount of time. Now there's still people without power. There's still people.
Not far from here. There's still people without power, but not having power, water, and cell service. I tell you, it was a stark reminder that we take so much for granted, and it made us, again, it was humbling to realize, okay, we are grateful for what we have, grateful for you guys, and grateful to be able to help and serve you guys where we can. So as Patty mentioned, it's okay to ask for help. It really is. And, we still struggle with that at times, but we've also learned that we have to ask for help at times as well. So if any of you guys ever want any help when it comes to nutrition, some of your mental challenges, or just some of the stuff with your running, if you got a plan, please reach out to us, because we're just farther down the road in some of these aspects than you guys are. And we're more than willing to help give you some tips and some guidelines on that.
But with that, like I said, be strong. You are strong, but develop those skills to be resilient, and you can overcome anything.
You can overcome anything. All right, guys, have yourself a great weekend. Thanks for watching. Any comments, leave them below. and we'll get back to you right away.